I will learn how to fade that down at some point. But anyway, good evening and welcome to
Good evening.
episode 48 of the MalTravAle podcast. 48. Oh, there we go. So it's the 10th of July. So it's a Monday night. So I must admit, I've got nothing in the glass. Nicholas, no doubt, will probably have something brown. And I'm doubting Bruce has got anything in the glass.
I have to go to the Crystal Palace briefly at 9 to see somebody.
All right.
I'm having a cup of coffee and a shortbread bicky.
I must admit, I had a few beers on Friday night, and it's quite a while since I had a bit of a hangover on Saturday. I didn't drink too much, but I don't know. I think I started off with a 6. Well, I didn't start with against my will. Somebody bought me 6.5% beer to kind of keep the heat up, to keep an ex-student of mine. He'd already had about 3 or 4 of those, so he was getting a bit wobbly. So anyway, apart from that, so tonight we are taking a slight break. So the last few episodes we've been looking at the town that named the podcast, Malton Norton, and we took 4 episodes to kind of cover pubs past and present. We will catch up again, I think, the next episode, and we said we've still got to do Old Malton, so I said it would take a while, and then I think we also
Old Malton won't take a while.
Old Malton will, literally 3 pubs, I guess, and then we'll look at some of the villages as well. Because if anybody's coming up to stay in that bit of lovely Rydale, again, there's some really good village pubs as well. So, but in between all of that, a couple of weekends ago, using our Northern Rail vouchers from Out at Paper, we managed to get together on a very warm Saturday, and we had a trip to, I'm calling it Cottonopolis and Hat Town. So we went to the delights of Manchester and Stockport. Visited some, I think for me, pretty much, or maybe bar 1, bar 2, new pubs for me, and we sampled some really good beers actually. And I'm just reflecting, the vast majority were actually quite local to Manchester. Literally within probably a couple of miles of Manchester. There was a couple of Yorkshire beers dropped in there as well. So that is the planning that we're going to tell you a little bit about our little soiree. I think I've got it down to 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pints. I think we had our 8 beers because we did sneak up on a couple of halves and a couple of as well. I had a couple more before at the front and end of that. We might get on to Dunkin' Donuts. Was it in Leeds railway station where you miss your
Manchester? That's why we missed the bloody train. Delicious. It was worth it though.
We'll talk about that shortly. So, we determined we're going to try and keep these podcasts down to 45 minutes. So, beery highlights, as we always start with. I've kept these right down. I've put everybody on one slide for those on YouTube. So, Bruce, you kicked us off. You had a little trip out, I think, at the weekend, and that's a station bar you're in there, was it?
It is, yes. Well, the Durham Miners Gala, and sadly, it was such a long day. We had planned to visit the Victoria New Behaving, the Dun Cowan he couldn't get near, and then there's another Sam Smith's pub, who was named Terrible Scotland at the station now. The Coal Pits, it's been voted Durham Pub of the Year, and let's say it's one of the nicest in the estate. Very close to the station, but we just didn't have time to get there because it was a hugely long day. I was up at 5:30 on Saturday and got them at 6 o'clock, so it was a long day. But yeah, the station, first time I've been to the station bar at Durham, they'd only drunk it dry, but thankfully the one rail ale that left on was Pagan Queen from Bladen, a blonde beer, but a full-bodied blonde, and it was absolutely delicious. But I said they nearly drunk it dry.
And you were there for the Miners' Gala, Bruce, and you were there, to celebrate trade unionism. And then on the way home, you went first class. You could sample some of the recently publicly republic, whatever you called it.
It operates the last resort rail ale operation here.
LNER, where you're drinking Hop on Board, which I guess is their house beer, is it?
It's absolutely. I'm not a great one craft beers, but it's absolutely delicious. That's obviously been designed to appeal to every man, and it was absolutely delicious. Yeah, I'd say as well. In the carriage was the Bishop of Liverpool, James Jones. He was a chap who chaired the independent inquiry into the Hillsborough disaster. He gave the sermon at the cathedral at Durham Miners' Gala, and he was breaking his journey in York on the way back. It's absolutely lovely man. So he is. Lovely man indeed, and I have to say, if I stand up for going to church, his sermon was by far the best thing I've ever heard.
Was he on the Hop on Board as well, Bruce? Did he have a few beers on with you?
He was, no. But yeah, he was a lovely chap. Yes, Bishop of Liverpool, what a lovely man he was, yes.
Very good. So that was Bruce's trip up to the northeast. Now, Nicholas, you've been in the Green King pub, I see here.
Yeah.
Well, oh, you're drinking Duckers, but I'm gonna come on to Green King in a minute.
All right, okay, yeah. Not wrong with the Green King pub.
Oh,
I mean, at least they are still independent. Here we go.
Oh, thankfully we've lost Nick now, so we can't carry on about Green King pubs.
Someone on the internet must have
He's frozen again. He's using next door's Wi-Fi, so he's stuck in a very strange position there for those on YouTube. So I will, while he's getting back with us, a couple of things from me. Exmoor Gold we mentioned last week, and I went into my local Spoons. I did go into Spoons, and they had Exmoor Gold on as well in Newcastle on the Line, which was very nice. I mentioned to Bruce actually that I went into one of our little local breweries, Weller's Brewery. They're just in between actually. The owners have sold up and gone to Spain. I think after about 9 years. Nice little place. It's a fresh shop they're in. But as I said to Bruce, when I went in there Friday night and all they had on was bloody Osset. Every pump was Osset. I think they had a tap takeover. And the one keg beer that wasn't Osset was bloody Brew York. So I've got to say that it was I think that's White Rat I had there. It was a very nice pint of White Rat, which is really, really good. And then just a little new one for me, our newest one in town. This used to be a gentleman's club called Lace. It was a pub. It was a quite decent pub about 20 years ago. And it's recently been opened. There's some guys have a bar and shop in Hanley called Bottlecraft. And this is their first pub. And I've got to say, it's really nice. It's stripped bare a little bit. For those on YouTube, you can see that.
I'm back.
You're back in Newcastle on Line. And again, they do a 20% camera discount. So really, really great going in the Crossways. I don't know if you've been in there, Nick, have you? It used to be the Gentleman's Club, the strip bar in Newcastle on the corner.
Last time I was down,
really good beers in. Really great guy behind the bar who's always in. So anyway, back to your Green King pub on the banks of the Humber.
Well, it wasn't quite on the banks of them. It's on Hessel. So the name them all farms. They're meant to look like farm buildings, but they're not. They're identical inside, but serves a purpose. Mother and father are happy with it. So yeah, £3.80 for a pint.
Duckers in there.
£3.80.
£3.80.
Yeah. And that was not using any discount. In fact, the one in York, they used to take the camera. They used to offer camera discount, but I don't think they do anymore.
Now again, we think that obviously the Caledonian Brewery is shut now. So despite them still using that pump clip, we've mentioned some couple of podcasts back, and they announced they've closed the Caledonian Brewery in Edinburgh, and I think is it Belhaven Green King, isn't it? So I think they're brewing it all out of the Belhaven Brewery, which I think is a bit further north, isn't it?
It is quite amazing, though. I mean, they're getting everywhere Green King now. I mean, I noticed at Durham on Saturday, marching through Durham there, the Market Tavern in the middle of Durham, a historic pub, and they put that, this generic branding they have in all the London pubs with the real shiny Victorian writing. They put that there. I mean, they really are no respecters of heritage whatsoever. It's, I think they possibly mean least.
Does Humphrey Smith allow trade unions, Bruce?
No. I don't know if he does not.
I don't think Green King do either, do they?
No, but Bruce seems to be knocking certain pub chains and not other ones. So
we'll come back to that in a minute.
Spent most of his days Sam Smith's pubs in Durham, attending the miners' union. But yeah, Sam Smith is probably.
There ain't no miners' union left. There ain't no miners' union, haven't it? Because there's no bloody mines left.
Yeah. Actually, I have to say it's a great day out though. Anybody, there was 50 brass bands in attendance Saturday. Anybody who likes pubs and bands, I mean, it's a full day out, free of charge. Get there early. Get as near to the county hotel as you can. I was asked to go 12 out because Scouts. That's the reason I was there. And I don't think kids aren't allowed to carry the banners anymore. It was a huge, big banner with the couple of things. But yeah, get there. 50 brass bands, 65 banners. I mean, what's amazing is the entire town is just sealed off. No vehicles can get into the town centre because all these brass bands have to gather somewhere and all the people march with them. And anybody who likes that type of thing, it's an amazing day out. I would definitely go again.
Very good. And I know Nick's been away for a little away day again this weekend. So next time we'll catch up with some more beery highlights. And again, because a bit of beery news. So I'll as we're on Green King, I was listening to the Beer Longing podcast, which is opinions and the other Beer O'Clock. Those two guys split up, but one of them was carried on, and another two guys who were occasionally on the program, and they've got Beer Longing. and they were talking this with they did a Q&A, and they were asking about beer prejudice, you know, and I'm thinking about, and it echoed a little bit, I guess, with some of the discussion we've had. So Martin, who's kind of the main guy, he said it was Doom Bar, that when, you know, if it ever goes into any pub and sees Doom Bar, it's put him straight off. And they did say, look, you know, it'd be interesting to see what it actually tastes like in Cornwall, because obviously most of it's brewed in Wolverhampton these days. But again, we've had discussion. I remember when it was Sharps in Rock, and it was a great pint. But he's pretty unique, you know, everywhere now. And then they also said the same about Green King. They felt that Green King, again, if you see a Green King beer, IPA, Abbott, again, it's going to taste shite. But that was it. And the other one was Sky Sports outside a pub as well, which we've had that discussion, haven't we? That if you see Sky Sports behind a pub, you think it's just going to be kind of carling, which isn't always true, because that pub, I just randomly got that off the internet, but in that pub actually it says it's got Cascales on as well, but it has got Sky Sports banner. So,
interesting enough, I mean, obviously Black Sheep have closed those pubs down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that the ultimate aim is to make Black Sheep the new Doom Bar.
Yeah.
It's actually the brand they've bought. And
focus on beer. Yeah.
Apparently it's all been inspired by what happened with Doom Bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really...
I will say the busiest real ale pub I went in yesterday, obviously I went around the Leeds area, was the one that had about 4 screens showing the cricket.
Yeah.
And at least they were having people in there drinking. Yeah, they weren't all drinking real ale, but it was the busiest pub that I went in. So if having TV means that, especially with the stranglehold that a lot of these companies have on live sport. I mean, you guys are all right. You can afford Sky, satellite, and all that sort of stuff. But you know, me who works the public sector, I can't. Private sector, should I say? I can't. So yeah, if I wanted to go and watch the cricket, I would have had to find a pub.
Next door's cable through the window, Nicholas, like you do with the Wi-Fi.
No.
Anyway, talking of cricket.
I must admit, I mean, you talk about that, but I mean, it costs about 65 pence a day for Sky Sports. I mean, for the Ashes alone, I mean, I've spent far too many hours sat my backside watching. That's the thing. It's the time you waste watching it. And with so much going on this house at the minute, it's just I'm behind on everything. And we get drawn to it. And you go, I'll stay for another over. And it is great value. I think what you pay for a ticket. I mean, it is fantastic value, really, if you're interested in sport.
So on the cricket theme, and we've talked about this before as well, for those on YouTube, Pete Brown, beer writer, was tweeting a little bit earlier about the self-serve that a lot of the festivals now are putting on. And they reckon that part of that is because you get served 30% quicker. My nephew went to Headingley, and he said at Headingley now they've got, again, for those on YouTube, they've got these Carlsberg self-serve machines where a pint, but it was £6 a pint to get to serve your own beer, which is a bit extortionate, isn't it? The whole point is should be cheaper if you're not paying for anybody to do it. So I'm not quite sure what it was.
When he was pouring it, then was it £6 irrespective of the head you got, or did it just pay for the?
Yeah, it's just £6, and if you look on there, you can't really see it on there, but it's not any cheaper. If you buy 4 pints, it's £18. Sorry, £24. No cheaper. You know,
the first time I encountered these was we went on a cruise ship. They had the first brewery at sea, so they had the pumps around the ship. But to be fair to them, you only didn't pay for the head, so it was about $6 a pint, whatever it was. But actually, if you only got half a pint, because you invariably put such a massive head on it because it came out so fast, they only charge you $3. And I wonder if these worked on the same concept. That's really unfair, isn't it?
A lot of these ones have those bottom filling bottles, glass anyway, don't they? They have those bottom fillers, so you don't really get much of a head. Anyway, let's move on. So as Bruce has already mentioned, further news really about Black Sheep. We've been talking about it virtually every podcast since we restarted. Obviously, they first of all said they weren't in trouble. They weren't going into admin. Then they did go into administration, and basically an American credit company bought them out, haven't they? And very, very quickly, they suddenly closed both pubs in York. Although, as Bruce rightly pointed out on the tweet that somebody put on, they'd actually put the golden ball in there, which has got nothing to do with Black Sheep or the old York Brewery ones.
The naming one Within the Walls as well. I've never known a pub called Within the Walls in York.
Very bizarre, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So very strange. And then they also announced that there are 2 pubs in Leeds and shut as well. And again, reading some of the kind of press, they just literally came in at 4 o'clock on a Thursday. That's it, we shut, and get everything out, get all your stuff, and get out. So not great. I mean, the last drop was, it was steady one at Bruce. It was a bit of a shop thing in there.
It was a fantastic location, and I say I think if they'd have kept the merch shop in there, and I think crucially served food. I mean, it's smack bang in the central yard, just off the Shambles Market,
Yeah.
the passing trade, and you kind of think, because when the York Brewery, they did food and it was always busy, but obviously
So have they
they're
kept?
not in
Is it three-legged mare they've kept open?
Yeah, the only one that's open now is
It was
the
always a funny.
the last drop. Yeah, the last drops are the only one remain. Not the last, the three-legged bear. Sorry, yeah, the only one
It's
remained.
a funny pub, isn't it? But I suppose it's got that big eating area around the back. That one, hasn't it? It's got that kind of conservatory around the back. But it's not a great pub, really. Is it? It's all a bit narrow and a bit pokey, really.
It is. Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll keep an eye on what's happening there. And then again, interestingly, as one shuts down. Again, news this week that Cropton Brew, which again we've talked about. Nick, you did a bit on this because we looked. They became the Great Yorkshire Brewery. Looks like they're back to Cropton again. Although when you leave the small print again, the reason probably is in that again. I think you mentioned it that Yorkshire pudding were now brewed there as well. So now it's a three-way partnership. The original family, the Lees, who had the Cropton Brew initially, have now gone into a kind of a three-way partnership with Yorkshire Pudding Beer Brewery and Twisted Wheel Brew Company as well. So they're all brewing their beers at the pub at the New Inn in Cropton. So quite nice.
Well, the volume that Howard needed to supply to Aldi, obviously couldn't do it with his own brewing kit, so that's why they moved to Cropton. And Cropton had always been ahead of the game as far as that was concerned, having their own bottling plant going back years and years, and being self-contained, which once again is obviously a lot of people now move to cans, but Lidl or Aldi, should I say, were still after the bottled version, so it worked out okay for them.
And you do wonder, because I mean, a lot of people said on Twitter actually linked to this, they never had Yorkshire pudding in casks; they only have it in bottles, and you wonder whether that's. I mean, that's working. That's working. I know they do it in cask, but you don't see it in many pubs, do you? It's mainly you see it at the food festivals and things. And obviously, bottles is where the money is. So interesting to see that. And then again, linked with bottles. I don't know if you saw this. Morrison's are currently doing Nigerian Guinness at $7.99 for a pack of 4. This is the 8% stuff.
I don't like it.
7.5% stuff as well. So again, if you want to zip, apparently it's only limited. But if you want to get down and try some of the foreign extra stout, down to Morrison's. $7.99. It's not cheap.
I've had the Malaysian version of it, and it's quite taste. But you do sometimes see it in like B&M and Home Bargains as well. The foreign extra strong one.
Yeah, so there we go. So anyway, let's go back to the plan. So as I say, we all managed to get our tokens out of local papers, which meant that for £10 you could travel unlimited on northern trains, or £17 of the weekend. So a little bit of kind of pre-planning, because obviously we're still in the middle of a fairly unhectic train system at the moment. So Nick, you had to go to York to start your journey, is that right?
Yes, yeah. That's the problem with the one and only link in the whole of the north of England, it seems, is the one that connects York to Scarborough, is run exclusively by Transpennine. So it costs as much to get to York and back as it did to travel all the way to Stockport and back. And
then you had to take a slightly circuitous route, don't you? Because the northern trains don't quite go direct, because that's Transpennine. So did you go through kind of Hebden Bridge? Where did you in the end? And that kind of...
Yeah, it's going to jump up for 15 minutes.
Yeah. And I'm looking.
It's not a bad route. That maybe a little bit longer, but it's not too bad.
Well, they reckon that's kind of an alternative rail ale line, don't they? Now, if you keep away from all the nutters on the Staley Bridge line, you can go that way, which is not a bad thing. And I'm lucky that we've got a northern train link to Stoke-on-Trent to Piccadilly. It kind of one train every hour. It's a bit slower than the other trains, cross country and Avanti, but again, it does mean that our price is pretty cheap because you've got 3 different. In fact, the one goes to Crewe, because we've got Midlands as well. So we've got 4 train companies running through Stoke, which is quite good. So that was the plan. We said we're going to go to Manchester, but we'll use our tickets. So we'll also take in Stockport. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Stockport. We've talked about Robinson's in the past, and I'd heard that it's quite a good drinking scene. I think it's, I don't know, I think, well, on reflection, we were not quite, I don't know what the word is, we were a little bit put off, I guess. I think that's the way we walked into the town. But on reflection, actually, I think it wasn't a bad place. And looking back at the photos and things, we went into kind of 3 or 4 quite decent pubs, actually, which we'll come on to. So Where do we start? So you guys were heading to Victoria. I was getting into Piccadilly. So a little favourite of mine, it's one me and Nick found quite a few years ago now, Nick, isn't it? In the corner of the Arndale Market, there is the little micro bar. They must have been going now for about, I don't know, probably 15 years or so. And it's a little bit of a hidden gem. It never gets massively busy, but it's definitely worth digging out. It's right by the window, kind of looking towards the print works is on the other side of the road, isn't it, from the Arndale? So we thought it'd be a good place to meet. So I got there a little bit earlier than you guys. I got in there and got settled in, got us a little table. It was steady. The other good thing, it opens at 11 on a Saturday as well, because most pubs in Manchester don't open until 12 o'clock. So as you can see, there were a few regulars by the bar, including a very, very young-looking Van Nistelrooy. So it's a nice
shame to see when these Premiership footballers retire, let themselves go a bit, don't they?
So there were about three. There wasn't a massive choice on. There were two casks on. There was Strange Times, a Neo Cosmo Blonde, and an Ellen White Prussian. So I got there, so I got there a bit earlier. So I started with a pint of Ellen White Prussian, which was very nice. Typical kind of pale ale, 3.9%. And then when you guys arrived, we moved on to the Strange Times, a brewery from Salford, and then Neo Cosmo Blonde, which again looks quite nice on the pictures there. That was a 4.1% blonde.
It was lovely, yeah.
Quite a nice little starter. So we kind of stopped there. As you can see, we got sat in the window. We had a little kind of chat, little kind of ideas what we were doing. We hadn't really planned anything too much. Bruce was keen to go to Mulligan's in search of England's reputedly best pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
Nick, you'd got a couple down. You'd got British.
I'd done my research for all the historical Camera pubs, heritage pubs.
Yeah, I was quite keen as to get us up to Track, Tap, and the other one across the road, Cloudwater, is it? There's across the road from there as well. But anyway, we decided. I think I probably pushed us a little bit. That our first trip would be a little bit up Rochdale Road, so only about 6-7 minutes walk from the Arndale. And that is to the Marble Arch Inn, which again is a classic Manchester little boozer. It's a bit in the middle of nowhere, really. It's a bit one of those that have been left. So everything to the kind of this side of it is all shiny glass and monstrosities, isn't it? And then on the other side, it's kind of a bit derelict, but definitely worth finding out. Marble beers are not brewed here anymore, but this is where the Marble Brewery began. They've moved out a little bit further out into a more kind of bigger industrial unit. But this is a cracking boozer. First one for me. You guys been there before?
No, I thought it was fantastic.
Nah.
Yeah, it's a preserved Edwardian.
Quite famous for its sloping floor, which apparently a few myths about barrels rolling down, but apparently it just follows the street. And again, as you can see from the pictures, it's absolutely fantastic inside. Got a wonderful kind of vaulted ceiling with individual tiles. Apparently that was covered up until the kind of late 80s. It was all covered over. But a cracking bar. It was fairly quiet because we were pretty much in there not long after it had opened. We ended up I think we all had their Persephone summer ale. And we had to school the bar staff about what that actually meant, and we then got into Greek myths. This is their summer special ale, which again, as you can see from that picture there, was pretty nice. And that cellar must be nice and cold because you can see from that pint glass, lovely glasses with kind of the old BBC weather things on, weren't there? And then I don't know, I picked this actually almost the kind of day after. Somebody had tweeted, Roger Protz had retweeted this picture of it in 1992, and as you can see there, it hasn't changed much, has it, in the last 20-odd years? So there's no bandits left. There were no bandits and it's kind of one big room.
Yeah, one big room at the back, wasn't there? And there were and the food must be good because it was packed in there. So be interesting to go back and see what the food's like, because the people were there for a reason, weren't they? And it is the middle of nowhere. And then a bit of a big on the back as well, yeah.
It's a strange pub in that it's impressive from the outside, but the architecture on the outside doesn't match anything on the inside. Yeah. And it's even more impressive on the inside. It's like a pub that's been turned inside out, because there's features inside the pub that you'd expect maybe to see outside. So certainly worth finding out. Definitely unique inside.
And again, Marble beers are good. I mean, they reckon that Manchester bitter, I've had that a few times. You know, he's a proper, almost like Boddington's used to be in the good old days, or a Hyde's or a Lee's. So I mean, I think they pretty
Well,
much.
I had that, didn't I?
Is that what you had? Yeah.
You two went on the blondes and I went on the normal
Yeah.
bitter.
And I got to say that was on good form as well. So that was our first proper pub, which was again a great place and definitely worth visit again. We then set off back into town and we went down Deansgate, and Bruce was very keen, not been there before, to search out Mulligan's. So Mulligan's is a little bit kind of, you've got to go past quite a way down Deansgate, and when you go past what was it called in Manchester? Not Phoenix. What was the big department store in Manchester called? Oh, I've got its name now.
Lewis's.
Became Debenhams. No, it wasn't Lewis's, was it? It was one of the other ones in Manchester. No,
No.
one of those. It'll come to me in a minute. Carry on past there, and it's round the back of there is Mulligan's. This was the first pub that had a bouncer on the door. It must be getting towards the science museums down this way as well, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
That bridge kind of round the back there that will kind of is there.
Yeah.
Kendall's was Manchester's big department store. Kendall's.
That's right.
Yeah. So past Kendall's, and there's Mulligan's on its corner there. And there's Nick walking towards it. So we got into there. It was pretty lively, wasn't it? It's probably one of the busiest pubs we went into, certainly in Manchester, that kind of early afternoon. We found a little seat towards the back. And then just as we kind of got halfway through our pints, one of the little booths opened up. So we snuck into one of those little booths. It's a typically Irish kind of refit pub, in it. Lots of stuff stuck on the walls about Irish whiskies and hurling on the telly and hurleys and stuff on the walls and various bits of old wood as well. Hard to see actually how old it is, because I don't think it's that old. It's just been a refit. And we tucked into their Guinness, which was it about £6 a pint? How much was it? £6 a pint or something?
Well, I think it was more than that, to be honest. Yeah. And I have to say, probably I've been wanting to go here for ages. If anybody, lots of people that Guinness guru, man, and he was talking about it. Reputedly, Britain's second best pint of Guinness after the Old Shillelagh in Stoke Newington. And I have to say, sad to report. And to be fair to me, it was the start of a heat wave, but it was disappointing, wasn't it? It was good Guinness, but it wasn't outstanding.
Yeah.
I've been to Kennedy's Irish Bar in Altrincham in February there, and I have to say the Guinness there was sublime. And in fact, I've just forgotten the name of the Kennedys when I was talking to you on the phone. And I've just discovered that on a Monday to Wednesday, it's only £4 a pint at Kenny's, the Guinness, and that Guinness was insanely good. Mulligan's was good, but ultimately I have to say we were all disappointed because we're expecting a seminal tasting.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see how it was poured. How was it poured?
They got it wrong.
They let it stand. Yeah.
I think, to be fair, John, I think the heat wave, it was boiling up that day. And
it was, yeah.
They plus had to turn the chiller up. I'm sure
shouldn't make much difference in a pub like that, Brooks, with their cellars.
Well,
and most people were drinking Guinness, weren't it? It wasn't like we had the first ones out of the pump. I mean, there was virtually everybody in the pub was drinking Guinness.
Yeah, I think
so. They must have choked through it.
The time before, like my last pint of Guinness was in Wetherspoons in Carrickfergus. I think that was better actually, and a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Well, I still think the Golden Line in Whitby is still best pint Guinness I've had for a long while. So we'll carry on that seat. So we left a little bit disappointed and now walked out into a very, very warm Manchester. So we carried on kind of towards GMX and towards kind of Oxford Road Station. And again, a little bit perched now on its own. You can see that from one of the photos there. Is again one of Manchester's kind of, dinosaur heritage pubs. The Britain's Protection, which again in most books about Manchester pubs you'll see. As we got there were already things on the wall talking about there were Heineken are flogging them off and please help and sign our petition. As you see over the door, they're established in 1811. So this is a typical classic kind of Victorian boozer. In anywhere, in London, it would be Ram, wouldn't it? It'd be like one of those gin palace ones in London. I mean, we got a whole room to ourselves, didn't we, at the back there, which probably could seat about 40, and there was just the four of us in there. So, again, good array of beers. Lovely little kind of back and front bar, wasn't it? So we went in the front initially, and then we moved around the back there. You can see the picture there around the back. And now I had the Mancunian Hoppy Blonde in there from Brightside Brewery in Radcliffe, which again was okay. I can't know what you guys had. What did you guys have in there?
Had something to do with a parrot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you had that parrot beer. Yeah. Yeah, it felt a bit sad in there. It felt like the seats were ripped. It felt like a pub on its last legs, didn't it? And for 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon,
Yeah, it was.
where we'd walk
I
past,
don't remember the ripped seats.
Yeah, they were where we were sat in the back in that room.
All right.
The seats were ripped, and it just felt like it just,
Yeah.
was like it was on its last legs.
Which is a shame because it is probably Manchester's most famous pub. This and Peveril of the Peak.
Yeah.
It's tragic, really. It was there. Yeah.
So worth getting in there again. Beer was good range of beers. Again, really good to see that lots of Manchester beers on as well. And then, as Bruce mentioned, from there we kind of headed back kind of towards off of Oxford Road. And I tried to prevail this lot with the day that I did a lecture in the Whitworth Hall where Einstein had done a lecture as well. Just didn't bother. So we walked past an interesting looking pub called the Rain Bar, which was a Lees bar. And I think if we had probably a little bit more time, we might have called in the Rain Bar.
The Rain Bar last time, and I said their Manchester bitter was stunning.
Yeah.
Nice.
We were keen to move on, so we were kind of heading towards Piccadilly at this point, and just as you get kind of up to the right, Piccadilly is, and another iconic Manchester pub. I've been here a couple of times before, mainly on an autumn night. I've been in here, which is very nice. Was Peveril of the Peak, Wilson's, interestingly, outside. Again, lovely pub with its green tiles out the front there, and inside again,
yellow.
Again, a pub that's got lots of little rooms. It was ticking over. We ended up in the wake room. There'd been a funeral because there were all funeral flowers all over the front, which probably nobody else was in there. I thought the toilets were interesting, a little bit of Art Deco toilets, but as you can see then from those YouTube, somebody had obviously pinched the gents sign, so it just could have felt tip pan and wrote gents on it. When there's a lovely ladies sign across there. Again, kind of a bar that serves kind of lots of different rooms as well. Again, as you can see from the tables, if you're looking on YouTube there, a little bit tatty, but again, not bad. I remember I had Millstone in there, the Tiger Rut I had. I think I know what you guys had. The Millstone was actually there, the beer mats in Millstone. Again, that's a Mosley brewery based in Greater Manchester. So yeah, nice little pub. It wasn't madly busy, was it? I suppose it's quite near the station, this, so I know certainly I've used it in the past if I'm waiting to get a train to Piccadilly.
To be fair, it was a day when people were really looking to be sat outside, weren't they? I mean, Sinclair's Oyster Bar, God, there was how many people outside?
Yeah, that was busy. Yeah, no, that was. So again, it just felt, I don't know, we were a little bit melancholy about whether these pubs were going to last a great deal longer, really. And again, I think they're both kind of wet led. I didn't see there wasn't much sign of food, so that's quite a challenge, isn't it, in a city centre type boozers these days? If you're relying on beer sales and drink sales. So I think, this is on the end of kind of Studentville. It's near the universities. So I guess, in student times and terms, there's probably more people in there. It was quite a young set there in there, wasn't it? I think in that back bar. But we'll see. So we whizzed up to Piccadilly and we jumped on the next northern train going south. And it's literally only about 6 minutes over the largest brick structure in Europe, which is the lovely viaduct that takes you into Stockport station, that high level station. And I think we'd walked in maybe not quite the most lubrious way. We walked through over a very nice looking street and the brewery there in the background that you kind of walk in on that high level. And that street, again, as Bruce mentioned, there had a couple, 2 or 3 pubs that had people sat outside. And again, for those on YouTube, you've got the view of the brewery, Robinson's Brewery, in the back. We walked past it. Well, we walked into the Petersgate Tap, which is one that everybody says you've got to go in. And as we walked in, some bloke walked out saying you'll never get served in there. So it was pretty rammed for a Saturday. Many people drinking Prosecco, I did notice. And with one person around the bar looking very stressed. So we made a decision, let's crack on and move out of there. Interesting, I think they actually definitely the day after they got given the Manchester Camera Pub of the Month or whatever award I saw on Twitter somewhere. So we didn't actually manage the Petergate Tap. So we felt at this point we need some subsidence. So what Stockport has got is a wonderful old market hall. So these guys, I made the beeline for the pork pie shop and a nice pork pie, but this lot went for a breakfast. So the Oak Tree Cafe, very neatly at the front there, and actually there's a little bar as well next to it. So we didn't actually have a beer in here, did we? I don't think. We were just having a little bit of a timeout. Again, there's
but it was 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So we did need to eat something. So breakfast butties and breakfast wraps and pork pies for myself. It was quite a little cafe there, wasn't it? and the market was just kind of packing down. And then we decided that we'd try and do a couple at Robinson's pubs. So Nick, I think you'd pick this one out. So the first one we headed to,
I'd got them both from the Camera Heritage Guide.
yeah, he's kind of
both
through the
happened to be
shopping
Robinson's pubs.
precinct. Is it called the Mersey? I think it's called like Mersey Gate or something in Stockport, isn't it? Or the Mersey something, the shopping centre.
By the loss of the Marks and Spencers, guess the old
yeah,
lost some trade because of that.
And again, slightly out of place in what is quite a modern development is the Swan with Two Necks, which was a lovely little pub, wasn't it?
That was lovely.
As you can see there, again, quite Art Deco. Lots of kind of, it reminded me, Nick, of the Bath Hotel in Sheffield a little bit, with that similar kind of paneling, wasn't it? And similar kind of maybe a little bit of Art Deco inside. Stunning bar in that corridor bar. It was wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah, drinking corridor with a bar.
Yeah. And then we ended up snug at the back there with the red leather. And this pub wasn't good, Nick. It was smart. It was nice. It was ticking over. Again, range of good beers. I think you guys, did you have the blonde? Did you have in there?
No, they're doing that
Oh, the
Citra,
Citra.
which is
Yeah.
slightly lighter. A 3.5.
That's right.
Really refreshing because it was warm. It was warm by then.
It was, yeah, it was.
As in the temperature outside, not the beer. Yeah, there we are. Hopnik Citra.
And then again, we've probably got another couple of pubs to do. So Nick, again, you'd identified, and I think Bruce, you knew about the secret snug in the Arden Arms. And I think Nick, you mentioned that I think the same guy runs both these pubs. So the Arden Arms is a little bit of a walk, kind of on the edge really of the kind of main shopping area. So a little bit of a walk, and under I think you go under one of the dual carriageways or something, don't you, to get to it. And again, from the outside as you approach there, it doesn't look that too glorious. But as you come around the corner, again, a fantastic old kind of old Arden Arms sign. And inside, again, a really interesting building, black and white tiled floor, a central servery bar, a bit like, typical old thing. And then as you look through there, the glimpse into the inner snug. Again, interesting here. You can see if you're on YouTube, the pumps are quite different, aren't they? They're kind of those little smaller pumps at the back of the bar, but not on the front of the bar. The front of the bar's got them just keg lines, and the cask beers are actually towards the back of the bar, with fairly short handle little pulls, which is interesting. So we did ask. It looked like there was a couple of tables in the rear snug, and so again, we, having purchased our beers, we walked through the bar, past the busy bar staff, and into the little back snug, which was quite nice. It was quite busy, wasn't it? Again, a lot of people kind of outside. You can see the pictures there. This is the view from the other side of the bar, from where we took that first picture, where we are. It was good. And the beer was all right in there. I think I was on the Unicorn in there, which is their best bitter, which was very, very nice. So we spent a night again, and probably about 20 minutes in there, and then headed back towards town. It was now probably getting on for about 5:30, wasn't it? And so we thought we'd better tick off Sam Smith's pub. So back in the middle of kind of, I guess, what is the kind of market square in Stockport is the Boar's Head Hotel. Again, probably the busiest pub we went into in Stockport. It was pretty rammed on it. And I don't know why.
It was Armed Forces Day. Well, it was Armed Forces Day that day, and obviously so that's more central to where stuff was going on. They had Stockport band playing, and just outside the market hall. So yeah, it's central. Very
and
central.
I didn't notice that it's on what's probably it says tends to attract a slightly older clientele in here, which it was. And I think after quite a few pints, we ordered a pint of mild, which was quite refreshing, really, quite nice, quite like their Sam Smith's. Like
the round of the day too, wasn't it?
I know, honestly, probably about £3 for 3 pints of mild. So that was it. So yeah, that was it really. And then we kind of wandered back to the station, and we got on our merry way. So I had quite a nice little trip back to Stoke-on-Trent. That's only about 35-40 minutes for me, and managed to stop off and just have a refreshing pint of, looks a very flat pint of Titanic, that in the Titanic pub, which is in the old first class rooms on the Stoke station. And Nick, Bruce and my son Finn had a slightly more circuitous route home, in that they managed to get on the train to Manchester and then missed their connection because Bruce and Finley said they had to go and get some donuts. So they missed their connection. So how long were you stuck in Manchester for? About another half an hour?
Yeah, it was all a bit mad, really. Yeah, we couldn't pass the chance to get a Dunkin' Donut, and somebody was taking the time choosing them. Time choosing them, so it wasn't in vain.
But it took you, Nick, about 4 hours to get home then, did it?
Yeah, something like that.
You were back till about 11 o'clock, were you? Because I was
trying to get the last train. Yeah.
Phantom Craft Bar at 8 o'clock, having some very nice beers down there.
Mm.
So all in all, a good little trip, really. And I say it was really nice to tick off some of those iconic bars. Choice of the day, gents. Where would you definitely go back to?
The Marble Arch, I thought was a
Mm.
fantastic pub. It was just fantastic. Biggest disappointment of the day was the Guinness in Mulligan's. I thought it was going to be a sport, but it wasn't. But yeah, Marble Arch was just a fantastic pub. Pubs are great in Stockport, and you have to say that just beacons of optimism in a town that's just been absolutely ravaged, really, by the sort of decline of the high street, hasn't it? Sometimes see it.
I think there was more. I think there was more to explore in Stockport, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we should have gone down that lane towards a brewery.
Yeah, just done the day there, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we missed quite a few of their good pubs, and we didn't go to any of the micro bars which are there. And I say that street where you look up to the brewery looked really, really great. And even from where we were in the market hall, there's a big kind of beer hall across the road there that had street food and bars all the way down the side of it. And it was pretty busy. It was hard to say. And Nick said it was kind of Armed Forces Day, so whether that's normally that busy, it wasn't round, wasn't it? I mean, we got served in all the pubs fairly quickly. I think for me, yeah, Marble Arch was great. It was probably again, we were slightly blessed, and that was our first real pub of the day. Ardnarv was quite nice, I think.
Yeah.
Visit there, wasn't it, as well? Going there. Nick, yourself, choice of the pubs?
Yeah, probably the same. I mean, I was surprised actually that the pubs weren't busier. But once again, I think it's this city lifestyle that nobody goes out during the day. You know, if people are going to go out drinking in Manchester, it tends to the city doesn't even come alive until sort of mid-afternoon, and then it's evening.
It was too nice today. I mean, it was boiling hot to be sat inside the back of pubs. Really, it was. You know, you can understand why people weren't out. Really, even if you were paying £6-7 a pint, you want to be outside, don't you?
Yeah. And again, I thought was good. There wasn't much Doom Bar. There wasn't much Abbott. It was all mainly local, kind of northwest Manchester based.
Yeah, but that's the pubs that we go to. That's the pubs that we'd already done our research on, wasn't it? If we were going to the pubs where all the people were, then there would have been just those on the bar.
Doom Bar in some of the kind of better pubs, don't you? To be honest, but anyway, a good day out. So yeah, that was our little trip to Cottonopolis and Hat Town. So next time, next podcast, a couple weeks' time, I say we'll pick up and hopefully finish off and kill off Malton once and for all. So we'll talk a little bit about the pubs in Old Malton. Again, Nick's got a particularly regular up there that we mentioned quite a lot. And then we'll pick out some of the village pubs as well, which are worth obviously a bit harder these days when you have to drive. And again, don't think about any buses going to the villages in North Yorkshire, because it doesn't happen. If it does, it's once a week, if that happens still. But yeah, that's what we'll pick up next time. So now we are, well, possibly some of us might be having a beer in Stockton.
Oh yes, Saturday night, yes. Couple of good beer guides in there. Couple of entries.
Yeah. There's the Sun Inn, which apparently does banked pints of Bass. So I'm certainly going to try and call in there and get a banked pint of Bass. And then I've looked. There's a couple of nice micros, and there's quite a nice Weatherspoons. In fact, there's 2 Weatherspoons in Stockton. But so we might have something to report back there. You'll
have to try a Parmo. You're in the heart of Parmo country there. Yeah, I don't eat cheese, so I can't have one, but you can have a Parmo.
Maybe after we come out. I'm sure they'll do a non-cheese version as well. So that's the plan next time. So, gents, we might meet up at the weekend. If not, happy drinking.
Excellent.
Catch you all soon.
Wow.